Hello, my name is Bailey Cook, and I'm in a group with Adam Miles, Morgan Hendricks, and Hannah Nosku. Our group research question was, what is the impact of gray wolves being reintroduced in the United States? Our thesis, the reintroduction of gray wolves in the United States have been beneficial, ecological, but has exacerbated human-wildlife conflict. The main points of this presentation are to go over a brief history of the reintroduction of wolves in the Northwest of the United States and their impact on their other wildlife and to human life. The questions we hope to answer throughout the presentation are 1. Why were they excavated from the region? 2. What ecological impact do wolves have? 3. What impact do the wolves have on humans? And 4. What are the human-wildlife conflicts and solutions? The 3 core concepts that we are going to be going over in this presentation are how gray wolves have had an impact ecologically, the social conflicts they have caused, and solutions to how to mitigate the human-wildlife conflict. In 1995, gray wolves were reintroduced into the Yellowstone area from Canada. These wolves have been very successful ecologically. In 2012, in the state of Wyoming, wolves were taken off of the endangered species list. These wolves have made an impact by creating balance between different grazing species, which prevents monocultures from being created in the area. The introduction of wolves have even increased the tree population. A case study done in 2008 shows how wolves have had an impact on the elk population. The study was done in the northern part of Yellowstone. In this study, they found that almost 90% of the gray wolves diet that lived in the region were elk. The diagram on the top shows that although gray wolves do eat other animals, they mainly eat elk. The gray wolves targeted either young calves or old bulls, since the bulls will travel alone, unlike cow elk. This has led to a decrease in elk population, but the population is at a healthy level still. The decrease of elk population has caused there to be more land to graze for other grazing animals like American bison. This has caused an increase in the American bison population. The diagram in the middle shows how elk more than halved when the gray wolves were reintroduced. The diagram at the bottom shows how the decrease of elk population has caused an increase in the American bison population. In 2008, a case study, it showed that when the wolves were eradicated from the region in the 1930s, the tree population decreased rapidly over the decades. The reason for this was because elk would graze on tree samplings, and this would prevent a tree from becoming able to mature and reproduce. This then caused the tree population to decrease since the trees were unable to mature and reproduce. The diagram on the top shows how the tree population of willows declined significantly in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, and looked to almost absent in the area in the 70s and 80s. Once wolves were reintroduced in the region in the 90s, it shows the population returned to about how it was in the 1930s. The diagram below it shows how the height of trees has increased by several centimeters each year since 2001. The study has shown the balance in ecology in between the species, and this reintroduction of wolves has prevented a monoculture creating and has shown to do good things for biodiversity. In the 1930s, wolves had been fully eradicated from the northwestern United States. However, societal attitudes towards wolves began to change largely due to urbanization. These changing attitudes allowed for wolves reintroduction to be possible. However, conflicting attitudes among rural and urban populations led to increased social conflict. Emotions have played a vital role in people's tolerance of wolves and acceptability of wolf management strategies. Some groups in rural communities in the region, such as ranchers, have been intolerant of wolf reintroduction due to the perceived risks such as livestock depreciation and competition for hunters. Although the actual impacts have been relatively small, the emotions toward the perceived risks are strong enough that they have created human conflict. Following wolf reintroduction in 1995, there have been many social and political conflicts between rural populations and local, along with national governments. There has been a conflict between state and federal governments about controlling surrounding wolves. In 2006, Wyoming requested that wolves be delisted from the Endangered Species Act so they could be hunted, but the National Fish and Wildlife Association rejected this. It wasn't until 2017 when wolves were delisted in Wyoming. Another theme relevant to the sociology of human-wolf conflict in the United States is the symbolism surrounding wolves. In Western culture, wolves are seen in art, stories, and media. The symbolism surrounding wolves can shape attitudes and culture uses of wolves. In the northwestern United States, wolves have been used for hunting, trapping, viewing, photography, and their symbolism has generated positive economic activity in the Yellowstone. In 2005, there was a study in northern Minnesota of how agriculture workers manage their livestock to live in regions that have wolves in the area. The diagram above shows that the main way the farmers deal with this is to move the cattle out of the area that the wolves are in. This would be the most successful since if the livestock are not in the same area as the wolves, then it is not possible for the wolves to hunt down the livestock. This solution provides the best in the long term since it does not require constant monitoring or of a person or a dog like the other solutions do. The second most practiced solution by farmers is to protect their livestock from wolves, is to shoot the wolves, which we have seen in the 1930s can have a serious effect on the wolves population, and this will affect the region negatively ecologically like it did in the western part of the United States. Another method that the farmers mentioned that we want to talk about is the guard dogs, which the solution can lead to transmission of diseases between the domestic dog and the wolf, like rabies. Removing carcasses of dead livestock also seemed to not be a very good option for the farmer, since it does not prevent the wolves from killing their livestock. Lastly is fencing, but just like dogs, wolves are able to dig under fences and get in the area where the livestock are kept. What has been shown to work the best are keeping livestock and wolves in different areas so they do have the possibility to interact with each other. The graphs above are from the same case study previously studied. The table on the left shows what farmers perceive to be the most to the least threatening. A 5 is the most threatening and a 1 being the least threatening. It shows that people in the wolf area list wolves on the bottom half, but still above crop, pest, and disease. For farmers outside the wolf range, they list predators as the least threatening on the list. This shows that having wolves and livestock in two different areas reduces the fear of wolves attacking a farmer's livestock. The table on the right shows on the left column how farmers felt answering the following question. Timber wolves are causing unacceptable levels of damage to the northwest Minnesota's livestock industry. This shows, like in the last graph, that farmers within wolf range fear them more than farmers outside of the wolf range. It also shows how even farmers that do not produce livestock still fear wolves. The column on the right shows the results to the farmers answering the following question. The level of threat that wolves pose to livestock in northwest Minnesota. These results are identical to the results from the previous question. There are a couple ways for us to try to mitigate the human-wildlife conflict between wolves and humans. The first one and the best one would be to educate people on wolves themselves. This will show them how these organisms have a positive impact on the ecological community. This will also teach farmers wolves' behaviors and how to have minimum interaction between their livestock and the wolves. Education can be provided by the Department of Interior or non-governmental organizations such as scientific organizations like Society for Conservation Biology or the Ecological Society. Providing education through scientific organizations decreases bias such as certain specialized non-GMOs that have an agenda like PETA or organizations that promote hunting. Another solution would be to compensate farmers for the livestock that was killed by wolves. This would be the government paying the farmer market price for the animal that was killed by wolves. This would require the farmer to register their livestock and to keep records of their livestock. This is done in states like Oregon, but is not very successful since the farmers still will hire people to guard their livestock and will kill wolves trying to kill their livestock. Lastly, there is an idea of creating a buffer zone. This would be creating an area that neither livestock or wolf habitats are on, so that neither will come into contact with each other. One way of doing this would be to convert some of the Bureau of Land Management land into the buffer zone, which would no longer allow farmers to use land for cattle to graze on. But also there would be no wolf habitat in this region, so there would be no wolves. In conclusion, wolves were a part of the ecological community in northwestern United States before humans settled it and made industry farming in the region. Taking the organism out of the area has affected other organisms directly and indirectly. Farmers, hunters, and people in rural areas currently do not like wolves in their region and have started to shoot them, as people did in the 1930s. If we educate people affected by wolves and provide more laws and regulations, this should help mitigate the human-wildlife conflict. And here are the sources. Thank you.